welcome to the 5th inaugural Kitfox Crimson Law and Draw stream. As I mentioned on Patreon, it'll be a slightly shorter one this time just because I've got some other stuff going on. Meeting up with Mummy Dearest in about an hour, 2 hours. So yeah, I'll be heading out a bit earlier than usual. But yeah, thanks to anyone who's been able to join in this time and tell me some stuff to do and some stuff to talk about and all that stuff. I really love doing these. I haven't done one in a little while just because I've been super busy. Still trying to organise different things, trying out different things I can do instead of teaching to make ends meet. So I've just been doing miniature painting, I've been doing some other commission stuff, I'm still working as a teacher for now. And trying to do all that stuff and package things up and sell stuff on eBay and doing all kind of things. But I do still want to, I'm always conscious that, you guys on Patreon are doing so much for me, so I'm just, anything I can do to, I'll try to keep doing the streams as much as I can and doing other little bits and pieces here and there. But yeah, if you're wondering what the little warm-up picture is about, excuse me, I guess that cough reminded me I'd better actually try to remember to drink this time. Last time I think I said I was going to try to, and I did it approximately one time, which had approximately no effect. So yeah, hopefully by the end of this one I'm not as incredibly hoarse as I usually am. But I'm a teacher, so I'm used to yelling and screaming all day long, so it should be okay. Anyway, yeah, this picture. I've been listening to a lot of Dragon Force lately, and whenever I sort of listen to it, the lyrics of every Dragon Force song is so generic that you can kind of imagine anything to it, which I guess is its main strength. It's a good band to be studying to or drawing to if you want to be doing things quick. But yeah, every lyric is just it's raining, but also it's super hot. It's the desert, and also it's the tundra, and we're riding forever, and also in constant pain, and something about destiny, and something about it's just like so. Just this is kind of what I picture every Dragon Force song to be about. There's some people walking through a wasteland that's either too hot or too cold, or somehow both at the same time, and there's fire and rain and everything. But I love Dragon Force, and specifically Inhuman Rampage, the album. Big into that. Hello? What's up? Echo.
It was fine under night.
That's what I get for not looking at this chat yet. Just one moment to look at my admin here to sort things out.
There's legit only one there. You heard it. It recorded absolutely fine.
Mm-hmm. What's the top one?
These aren't active.
Oh.
They shouldn't be playing anything. It says they're active, but they're not recording.
Mm.
I'm just going to turn, I know you like having the camera on, but I'm just going to turn it off and see if it's better.
Okay.
So talk to me and I'll go check.
Okay. Is that any better? Let's wait for G to get back to the seat in the other room. See how things are going. Oh, it is. Okay, cool. All right. Camera. Okay.
Webcam.
Oh, yeah, of course it is.
I don't know why it won't disable.
Yeah.
I've disabled it so many ways.
Undisableable. Okay, cool.
I'll have to figure something out.
Thanks. Later. Okay, thanks, Angel. All right, so I'm sure we can get by without the webcam for now. Bloody ridiculous. Yeah, it's one of those things like before we started, yeah, everything's great, everything's perfect. This is going to be the first time everything sort of worked. And yet, here we are. But that's all right. More room for amazing pictures like this if there's no little of my face. And that gigantic towel that I put up in an attempt to stop any, little bit of the reverb. But we'll see. If I end up doing this a bit more, I'll probably put some actual stuff up in the room, those egg carton looking foam things to make the sound better, but we'll see how it goes. Only hear the left ear. Yeah, well, I'm only talking to everyone's left ear. I can do that. Was anyone else having that problem? It's only in the left ear. Oh well. Just pretend I'm in there, just uncomfortably close, just talking in one of your ears. Let's see. Camera fix the echo. Good. More sound coming from the left speaker. That might be something to do with the setting we've got on our little sound mixer thing. Let's see. I don't want to mess with that myself. I'll destroy it. It'll burst into flames if I touch it, so I won't. But well, hopefully that's not too distracting, and we'll fix it up for next time. Oh, hi, Kitfox boy. Oh, and yeah. So let's head back through the chat, see what's going on here. Howdy, Echo, yes. Yeah, Omega, I'll do your request first. So if anyone else wanted to have a think about something I can do that. What's wrong? Oh, no, you. I'm having a panic attack every time you come in the room.
You just answer them.
All right. Yeah, geez, I'm under the table doing fixing them some stuff. Hopefully we can fix that left and right headphone problem. But all right, yeah. So that request, I'll just have to go over into the internet and find a picture of Beerus, so I know what he looks like. Is it still working? Is it a little quiet, but not hard to understand? It's probably just a stray left pan through a mixer somewhere, or a cable having fun. Yeah, probably. All right. Back in here, get back into that request.
I'll try to fix it for you later.
Oh, thanks. So yeah, we'll see how we go at that. Okay, load more comments. Hail, it's Johan dressed as Lord Beerus from Dragon Ball Super. Any expressions up to you. The Natini Anubis Anthony in the background, laughing, saying, probably should have thought twice before having that bet with me. Johan says the man who's supposed to be dead. Okay. Alrighty, let's get this sorted out. So, oops. Okay, cool. I've been moving things around willy-nilly and that's been no good. Alright, so let's get a new layer in here and we'll start that off. But yeah, if anyone has got anything, see, Kitfox says, unfortunately, it could be hardware or software. OBS doesn't always make figuring that out easy. Yeah, I've noticed that from looking at other people's streams and things. I can still hear you fine on my laptop even when you're quiet and making noises. Good. I think. Yeah, so if anyone's got something they want to know, any like lore questions or stuff that's been happening in the comic lately or anything like that, I can answer that while I'm doing this. But while people have a think about that, I will just have a bit of a talk about something that I've been kind of getting into a fair bit lately, which is finally something that G's been trying to get me to read for a while now, which is the Wings of Fire Dragon books, the Chewie T. Sutherland kind of like young adult sort of novels about dragons and people and dragons kind of coexisting, but both considering each other to be kind of borderline like mindless monsters and kind of it's all very sort of magical, very sort of kind of I guess sort of medieval in sort of technology level, but yeah, so it's a world of dragons, and the dragons are kind of the dominant life form at the moment, and they've got their own sort of civilizations, and there's a whole bunch of different dragon tribes, so sort of different sorts. So kind of similar to how there's the different dragon types in Dungeons and Dragons. It's kind of similar to that in the Wings of Fire series, where you've got all different dragons. They sort of come from you sort of learn this later. I don't think this is really spoilers, but um, it's sort of when they kind of go off and go into different areas and different lands, they eventually sort of gain different attributes that sort of gives the impression that they're different species when they sort of all came from the one thing. And when they sort of start to sort of intermix again, it sort of starts to pan out and different species come in and yeah, so there's like a fairly mutable sort of thing. But yeah, this sand dragons and ice dragons and what you would consider to be your typical red, sort of fire breathing dragon, sea dragons and mud dragons and all and dark, night dragons and things like that. And yeah, so I've read a few of these books. So whether 2ET Sutherland is one person, I'm not sure. I haven't really looked into it. Or more of a Aaron Hunter, Warrior Cat sort of amalgamation of people who all sort of write stuff. They managed to crank out a fair bit of books. So it's probably a group of people, but I'm not really sure. But yeah, so they've been pretty good. Yeah, I was a little apprehensive at first. Of course, well, first of all, because I have got, very little time to read novels, and like up until recently, the only books I'd be reading would be like, books I'd read to try to get to sleep, which are sort of not incredibly fast-paced or engaging stuff. I mean, I've been reading the Terry Brooks Sword of Shannara series. I might have mentioned that before, but yeah, just little bits at a time before I go to bed, and that's all good. But those are very kind of old-fashioned, very sort of 1970s like Tolkien-ish fantasy novels that are like relatively slow and fairly straightforward in what they're about. There's an army of this and an army of that and a dark lord of something or other, and they're doing something, and some teenagers got to do something to do something, and then oh, what a twist! The magic doesn't work the way they thought it did, and blah blah blah. So yeah, I've been reading that, bits and pieces, and I was like, oh, I haven't really got time to read these dragon books. Oh, and just as a side, I guess, like, gee, a sort of a running theme in the streams, I guess, sort of by accident, is that G's kind of been getting me to draw like a dragon-related thing at the end, so it'll probably happen again this time. But yeah, I was like, oh, I haven't really got time to read this, but yeah, but then I discovered, or didn't discover, but took the plunge and started going down the audiobook route. So I've just been painting miniatures, been painting like a miniature commission, bunch of Daughters of Cain, so the witch elf and the dark elves, but they're also Medusas and snake people and flying harpy people and all that kind of thing. The Warhammer army, when Games Workshop decided that they wanted to move away from the vastly uncopyrightable elves and orcs and dwarves and kind of leaned into their marginally more unique IPs. So yeah, I've been penning a lot of those Daughters of Cain, Dark Elves, and while I've been doing that, I've been listening to the Dragonet Prophecy, and then Darkstalker, and the Dragon Slayer, the kind of the first book series, and then a couple of standalone books. And yeah, so I thought I'd just talk a little bit about them while I'm doing this. Nothing like in depth or anything, and it's difficult to talk about much about it without immediately going to spoilers. So it's not going to be anything like specific or anything like that. but I will say it's a little bit like Dune in that it's like a prophecy, but it's sort of like an anti-prophecy story. But I won't say anything more than that. But in nearly no other way is it like Dune, the Frank Herbert novel specifically. But it's a like kind of deconstructing in a way the traditional fantasy sort of prophecy story. So yeah, it's sort of because it's a YA book, and I'm a wretchedly ancient curmudgeonly old man. It has like some parts of it don't super resonate with me, especially since I guess to be on board with their teenage audience, they'll definitely take an anti-adult or like a non-conformative or a anti-teacher slant to a lot of thing that's going on. So most sort of adult dragons in it, or especially and or adult humans, and specifically like teachers or instructors, are all either evil or hopeless. And so that's a little irksome. Just like being a teacher, one of my kind of pet hates is like, and I get why they do it because kids like to think that they'd like to rebel against authority a little bit, and they want to see these people who are kind of holding them down as being like no good or whatever. But yeah, it annoys me to no end when you've got like a teacher sort of figure who is really mad at students for being smart and asking smart questions. It's like, no, I don't know, maybe this is just an Australian teacher thing, but in no universe would a teacher ever be annoyed at a student who is like asking smart questions. That's a godsend. It is incredibly rare. But like a lot of the time in these books, it's like, oh, teacher, something, something, something that is outside of the curriculum. And like, oh, we shouldn't ask questions about that. Do your work. Oh, I haven't got time to. Oh, don't stop asking these questions that are outside the what we're talking about. You're too smart for your own good. Ugh. Like it's, I guess the sort of thing that's empowering to a teenager, but from the teacher perspective, it's like that is crazy. You would be wanting to support that sort of thing as much as you could, and it would just be incredible in like the sea of uninterested kids with like literally anything better to do from their perspective than sit there and like learn. For them to like be thinking outside the square, that's incredible. It doesn't happen much, but that's just something that happens a little bit in these, I guess, young adult novels. It's kind of annoying to me specifically. Um, but yeah, no, that's really good. It's really well written from the very start. Like the opening paragraphs, it's just like sort of catches you immediately. Like it's sort of a it is a meanwhile 6 years ago kind of thing, which can sometimes be a bit of a problem in terms of like starting a narrative off and should you care about these characters that aren't really going to be anything. But it does a really good job of getting you engaged like immediately, and the stuff that's going on. They explain the premise. Cause another thing, especially with sort of traditional fantasy stuff, it can get very sort of front end loady, kind of getting bogged down in explanations of like a lore. I guess by necessity to an extent, because fantasy worlds have always got their own rules that aren't like that need to be explained. But the Dragon books do a really good job of explaining it while kind of actions happening in a fairly organic way that makes sense. And yeah, it really kind of engages you right from the very start. Sort of you meet a character that is important later on, one that I mean, spoilers for the first page of the book where they die like immediately, but it's a very really good opening. Sort of sets it up so you care about the situation, and immediately sets the stakes pretty high and shows you that anything can happen. It's one of those books where the way it's written and like the characters are quite, I guess, I don't want to say juvenile, but like for a young audience. But there's immediate death and like mutilation and child murder, and it's like okay, a lot of heavy stuff's going to happen here, despite its tone and its target audience. So they certainly don't talk down. So yeah, and then after a little prologue, you're introduced to the main characters, and they were pretty good. I'd probably put the writing on par with kind of the first few seasons of like My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. It's in that it's like it's quick to the point. The characters are interesting and unique and developed enough that you can like kind of you get an idea of who these characters are pretty quickly. They don't have to waste a lot of time. They don't kind of war and peace it where you need like 17 pages of preamble just to explain the backstories and motivations of all the characters. Like, you get it. Like, each character has, one or two kind of specific character traits that's endearing and it makes them good. It's not particularly like realistic, but it's good. It's what you want from that sort of character in this sort of setting. And yeah, it goes through. It's really good. They setting up a lot of background and things, and it's just like pedal to the metal. Like, it goes through really quickly. The way sort of G was describing them to me before I read them, I sort of got the impression that they were quite long and sort of a lot of things happening and a lot of development, but it all sort of gets done really fast, and like you jump into the like the plights, and finding new characters and visiting new vistas and new locations, and really really quickly, and it goes at a pretty rapid pace. Then again, that could be just because I was listening to the audiobook and while painting, so things might have seemed to have been going a little faster than they might be if you were kind of reading yourself bit by bit and getting interrupted by stuff and things like that. But yeah, so yeah, I've been really really enjoying those. I got a little just free trial of Spotify just to read these things. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't. But yeah, it's been great so far, and now I can have a little more of an understanding of what's going on in all this stuff that G really likes. So yeah, that's what's that? All right, so see, I'm gonna just like no scope, see if I can remember what Anthony looks like. I mean, he's just he's just like, God, it's been like probably 12 years since I've drawn him. He's like the slightly kind of more bishy version of Johan, I guess, because I mean, I guess if anyone doesn't know, they're like kind of new to my stuff. And by new, I mean have not been around for 15 years or more. These guys are from Industrial Revelations, the kind of back when I was wanting to do a comic kind of every era. Well, not every era, but like a lot of different genres. This is kind of like the steampunky sort of one, where like the yeah, it's set in like 1864 or something like that, and yeah, I don't want to say too much about it, but it's basically just like crazy inventor guy, mysterious past, people keep trying to kill him for some reason, and the reason why that is pretty yeah, I won't say anything, but yeah, the Anubis is he's kind of what is he like? I think he has hair kind of like this, but yeah, I haven't drawn him in probably like 12 or 15 years. Um, but yeah, Johan, when he was sort of born or reborn, he made himself look like this guy so that he could be kind of insinuate himself cuckoo bird style into his family as kind of this sort of long lost child. But yeah, so yeah, they look similar. So hmm, mm, no, no, yeah, right. And yeah, what does he sort of wear? He's called Anthony because the Egyptian gods have kind of like gone through time, changing their names and kind of backstories a little bit as they go through time just to stay relevant. So yeah, Anubis kind of eventually turned into Anthony, and yeah, all the gods are like that. Like Sobek became something. Sekhmet became Sally. Um, Bastet became Beth. Like a lot of that sort of thing. So I think we're getting there. Oh, he's got a necklace. Beerus does. Oh yeah, all these like little collar things that somehow levitate kind of halfway up your neck. He's like a god or whatever. I guess he can do it. I think I've drawn hairless Johan more than normal version more lately for some reason. Yeah. Oh, he's got earrings as well. Okay, put that in there. Actually, this is kind of I guess considering the last couple of this character in this outfit, relatively easy. Certainly easier than the Jackal armor or Samus, which are both kind of similar. I might zoom out a little bit and get those Dragon Ball pants in there. It's not really a Dragon Ball Z picture unless you got those big old MC Hammer parachute pants. So we're gonna get some of that in there. Oof. Haven't really thought about this pose very well beyond that kind of portrait shot, but we'll see how this goes. Okay, how these legs even happen. Maybe he's doing like this, and then these big old pants are gonna. Huh, those Akira Toriyama pants. Everyone's a genie in this one. Come down like this. Loincloth, and I realize these lines are incredible. Oof. Ooh, that's forced perspective. Don't worry about that. The fact that those lines are all sorts of all over the place. And then, yeah, because I'm looking at the reference, I haven't been able to look at chats. Hopefully nothing horrendously bad's gone wrong. And it's just stuck at its usual level of bad, which is barely audible. So we come in like this. One of these days we'll get there. I was thinking maybe this might be the first actual stream, but yeah, I guess the next one will be the first stream. So he's got little thin little legs. His big wrists. The only thing I've seen him in is the Broly movie, and he's like barely even in it, so I don't really know much about him, except that he's got like a little butler fella. He kind of follows him around, like one of those super butlers who's like, oh yes, I'm a butler, but also more powerful than a billion people. 99.99% of people in this show probably. Oof, that's a weird pose. That's fine. And he's got his little thin tail, much like Beerus's tail actually. And then, okay, I guess we're gonna better have the rest of this real clamp style body type. Speaking of stuff, last night we started. Well, we've been watching BattleBots. I'll get into that a bit later because it's incredible. I love BattleBots. But once we finished with that, we were like just searching around for something else to watch, and we started watching Blue Lock, which I don't know. We started watching it because it was hyped up as this soccer anime, which is like, oh, it's different than any other sports anime. Well, it's just Squid Game but with soccer people in it. So I don't know. Hasn't sort of super grabbed me yet. Everyone's kind of just a crazy psycho, and it's just weird and not depressing, but I don't know, not very endearing yet. I'm sure it'll get better, and people will grow and whatever. And we've only watched 3 episodes, but at the moment I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Now, yeah, I think he's just got a tail like this. Might as well finish these. Now for the text. So as I've said before, in the future I'll probably minimize. Man, he's got some real bell bottoms here. What sort of 1890s, 1860s pants is this? Whatever. Gods can be trendsetters. I'll see how much of the text I can get in here, but probably from going forward I'll probably have these being not too text heavy because it's too much. It's hard to read and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, right. Probably should have thought twice before. Oh yeah, and as I said last time, the other thing is when I'm writing, I can't also talk unless I'm saying what I'm writing. This is also about as good as my writing looks in real life. Doctors have this status sort of handwriting, and apparently so do teachers. I just haven't had to use it because with the advent of interactive whiteboards and just projectors and all that, there's no reason to write like a peasant, some sort of Neanderthal with a stone tablet. So yeah, my writing has just gone to hell, which is the third or fourth reason I probably shouldn't be doing too much writing. I got in trouble in uni for having illegible writing in my like reports, especially since I did geology, geophysics as my science degree. A lot of the work was sort of out in the field with notebooks doing stuff, so I couldn't write things up. So it was all this. If you think this is bad, think about it like being written in a notebook in a bus, and it's kind of completely illegible. So that nearly ended my uni career just from that. Says the man who's supposed to be dead. I guess that's another kind of weird thing when you've got these anthro stories or even sort of in our shadow, like, man, should you be saying man? I don't know. I guess yes, since like they are, I don't know, the dominant race or whatever. But yeah, and like I sort of think that when I'm doing in our shadows, like, should I say person? Are they people? Is person like a generic enough term? Or does that specifically talk about like a human being? But I don't know. I say person, whatever. So just deal with it. I guess that's just part of language that they've taken from humanity. Anyway, there's this. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Probably good that I finished. Did I finish early? No, it took like half an hour. Oh no, 99 minutes of that was fixing the sound. So it's okay. We're on track. Because yeah, I'm finishing a bit earlier for anyone who may have joined early. So if you're like, oh, I'll wait until 12:45 to get mine done, and then I'm like, see ya. So yeah, just keep in mind. All right, I'm gonna head back into chat now. Excuse me. Oh yeah, the water. Whoa, a lot. Okay. Oh goodness. Um, okay. Sorry, I just had like brain paralysis for a second while I thought about how to tackle this. Um, find my laptop. Yep. Yes. Oh, gee, me talking about dragons. I'll talk a bit more. I didn't really say much about it. One of us, yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty into it. So much so that, like, yeah, whenever we go out to coffees, which is talking about Wings of Fire, by the way, right now. If we ever going out to coffee, we're just talking about dragons constantly, so that's good. I hope everyone around us can hear us. Uh, has the title ever made you consider a dragon-centric comic? Well, I did a comic with a dragon in it, the robot dragon, which G actually designed the sort of musculature for. I think its basic shape, and I just made it a robot. So that was sort of dragon centric. Actually, if anyone knows about the okay, this will be quick. I'll get another suggestion before doing another one. This will be quick. If anyone's read the Anne McCaffrey Dragon, the Dragons of Pern series, I got really big into that when I was in high school, and I did do a comic about that. In fact, that's one of the things I'm going to put up on Patreon when I can find it. This is like when I was in grade 8 or 9 or something, so it's probably dreadful. But I'll put that up at some point. But yeah, I did already do a dragon comic, or at least started one. It was in high school, so you're legally obligated to never finish a comic you start. But I'll put up whatever I've actually got. I'm just reminded of the book series I read as a kid called Dragon of the Lost Sea. That sounds a bit familiar. Oh no, I was thinking of Earthsea. Never mind. Yeah. Okay, I might look into that. Two E.T. Sutherland's from the Warrior Cats team. That makes sense. Um, Man, that's a far-reaching series and nice choice for AOS. I've been tied up in Grey Knights. Oh, at least you don't have to paint too many of them. And depending on how you do them, they're pretty not too hard to paint. I've had a couple of Grey Knights, but I sold them because I had too much stuff. Oh yeah, they're not my choice. I do like the Daughters of Cain. There seems to be everyone else's choice because I'm just going to start drawing something. And then, okay, so I'm just going to write down some of these things because I'm noticing I'm doing a repeat of the first episode where I'm just got a blank canvas, sort of. So I'm going to write down some of these things if I can get a little bit of paper. What's up, Angel?
Just the microphone's been playing up again.
Has it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Have you been bumping it?
I've been bumping around a little. What's...
I think there's a loose cable.
Oh. Sorry, fixing a technical difficulty again.
It might be you bumping.
Yeah, it might be just me throwing my huge weight around.
Okay. Do some speaking so I can check it.
Okay, I'm doing some speaking so you can check it. The crackling might be my chair as well. I've been rolling that around. I'll try to be a bit more still. So, looking at a few more questions. Mention some of my sci-fi inspirations. What are my biggest fantasy ones? Yes, biggest fantasy inspirations. And if I was to rewrite SG and RG, how would they differ from your original story? I think I might have talked about that before. But I'll just quickly go over it again. If I'm not the only one hearing that crackle, that has me thinking it's a slightly unplugged wire somewhere. Then again, it also depends on the connector. Yeah, I think it's probably an unplugged wire. Am I bumping the mic? Probably. I'll try not to. Few distortions, hearing it. Okay. Oh, Industrial Revelations are your favorite. Oh, great, thanks. Yeah, I do like that one a lot. I did try, because it was sort of black and white, to put a lot of effort into the hatched shading and the kind of the mechanical designs being a bit different to what I normally do. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that one turned out. G heavily influenced the Dragon Mech. Yes, indeed. Never read Industrial Revelations. Yeah, it's on there somewhere. It's got its own folder on DA. The text is a bit weird. I might go back and redo the way the text is. It looks a little... It's got sort of translucent speech bubbles, and the text is too big for the bubbles, and the text is a bit weird. But apart from that, yeah, I think it sort of holds up. All right. Had to teach Kitfox how to dragon. Yeah, well, of my own volition, I drew some dragons. So I was at school at lunchtime. I just did the main 5 kind of dragonettes of the prophecy, and yeah, it's fun. I'm slowly getting there. Drawing dragons. The best excuse for design, if the answer isn't science, it's magic. Yeah, actually, I was playing D&D. Oh, not last night, but the night before, and it's like, oh yeah, but I want to know how the magic... Was it that? It was something. I want to know how the magic works. It's like, the point of magic is that if you know how it works, it's not magic. So yeah, magic is... I don't know. I don't super love magic as a reason for things to happen. Because that's why I tend to like sci-fi stories a bit more. Haven't watched Super, only seen bits and pieces. Yes, me also. If by bits and pieces you mean none of it. You should write a book, How to Train Your Husband How to Dragon. Yeah, definitely had a lot of practice. It was a long journey to get me to this point. Hard work, but okay. Oh, trust me from experience on this one. A proper show day always has something go wrong. Yes, and if something hasn't gone wrong, you just haven't found it yet exactly. Speaking of which, I just somehow jumped ahead 17,000 posts. I do have another silly idea if there's nothing to follow up this one. Okay. Yeah, so I'll start answering some questions once I get down to that. Oh no, I have that problem too, even worse when I'm typing code. Yeah. Handwriting bad, yeah. I think it's just something that's happening to everyone. Slow and press hard. It sounds like a tagline, like, I write slow and press hard. My theory is that the more you use a computer, the worse your handwriting gets. I would say that's probably accurate. Sign of my name is the only thing that looks okay. And signature can look like anything, so it's fine. The worse the signature is, the harder it is to copy it. Filled 2 notebooks between geometry and Calc 2 in college with incomprehensible scribble. Yeah, that's what they're for, books. Say dude instead of man, I guess you could. After picking up tourmaline and saying, "Aren't you precious?" giving him the death glare from the indignation. So, like I was saying before about like Rats being a bit shorter than normal, and he's about Shaw's height. Tourmaline is exactly the same height as Shaw. So I guess him picking her up would be, yeah. I mean, you'd have to reach. He could do it since he's like a robot or something, but yeah, it wouldn't be there wouldn't be much of a height difference there, if at all. But yeah, lifting someone up long at arm's length, probably get a decent height off the ground. Okay, so I'll go from there then, and then okay, and there's another one here. Draw whatever Johan would wear in 2103. Well, I guess the thing about Johan, he's always. Oh, I think you've already taken that into account. Johan's always 100 years behind in his style. So in 2103, yeah, what's that? 2003. Yeah, right. He'd be wearing some, I don't know, like a flannel shirt and some cargo pants and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, have I thought about making a Google Doc with pictures and explanations of various things in my comics? Yeah, I try to get them into the comics as much as I can. And but yeah, I can do something like that. But all right, I'll draw that picture and I'll answer a couple of these questions I've got so far. And try not to cause too much crackle. All right, so new layer. Doop, doop. So, favorite miniatures game I've painted. Yeah, so I've painted a lot of games. I'm sort of one of these people who gets very into things very easily. I love playing games and tabletop games. I love painting, and I'm like relatively quick at it. And yeah, it doesn't take me much to like get into something. So yeah, I'm gonna be like playing any game if people are into it. I will be into it as well, and I'll be painting everything. Got to before I put it on the table, gotta have it painted. Probably the miniatures game that I have enjoyed sort of painting the most out of the time was probably one called Malifaux. So this is a game from like a while. Oh, it's still going, but like it sort of isn't as sort of popular now as it has been in the past. But Malifaux is kind of like a weird sort of eldritch kind of Lovecraftian kind of any kind of horror or thriller story. You not so much Frankenstein, a little bit of that, but any kind of like weird sci-fi monstery thing from the 19th century. The game sort of built around factions based on that sort of stuff. And at the time, the miniatures were like um, incredible. Like before Games Workshop kind of got their head properly around plastic miniatures that are really dynamic and look really cool and are made from the way that they go together is incredibly complex, and clearly a computer has cut up the mold or the 3D model that someone's made and done the best possible way to cut it up and make it work with really fine detail, really insane poses, and just looking amazing. So yeah, the Malifaux miniatures, the first were the first ones that I really kind of tried hard to paint really well, like because I feel like I'm probably a better miniature painter than I am just artist, like digital artists especially. So I always like doing them, and they really inspired me because of how good those models were, how dynamic and in proportion. Because at the time they're a bit better at it now, but Games Workshop was very much very heroic scale. So heads and hands would be really huge, and it'd look kind of weird. It'd look okay. The idea was that it looks good from a distance, like the main parts, the heads and hands are the bits that you generally want to focus on. But when you look at them up close, especially next to a non-heroic scale model, they can look a little bit weird. And like the Malifaux models were so good that it really put me off like Games Workshop stuff for a really long time because they just looked ridiculous after looking at the Malifaux stuff. But yeah, so the Malifaux models really good. It really inspired me to paint them, and it was the first time that I really did non-metallic metals with some stuff. So, and I know G like prefers me to do metals this way. That's not right. Where you don't use metallic paints, you sort of build up a metallic effect using non-metallic paints, and it's quite difficult to do, but it looks really good if you do it right. And yeah, it's like the next step of being a fancy pants with how you're painting. So yeah, I had a lot of fun doing that. I haven't really done the non-metallic metals since. I did it with another game, which also at the time when Games Workshop was still getting its act together had really good stuff. Infinity, the Corvus Belli game, the Spanish one, they also had like really good. Oof, I'm going to read all of this region. I think that is no good. They also had really good models, and they had also a really good miniature painter painting all their stuff for them called Angel Giraldez, who was really, really inspirational to me. And he would do like the non-metallic metals and stuff as well. And yeah, so those were also. But yeah, the Malifaux ones, as far as miniatures games and wanting to paint miniatures for them, those were the best. And I've got them in. Oh, I haven't got the camera on anymore. But where that big tower was, all those miniatures are on there in on display. But yeah, the game itself was really cool too. It was like instead of using dice, it used a deck of cards, and like the the number of the card and the suit of it would sort of act as higher lower numbers, and also would activate certain abilities. So that kind of really leaned into the sort of the 19th century sort of like ne'er-do-wells, gambling, fate, and tarot, and all this sort of thing that was going on. So that was, yeah, the system itself was really cool as well. And yeah, it was really fun. But yeah, I had a lot of fun doing that stuff. And Games Workshop eventually did catch up, and like their models look incredible now. And again, they're probably the best miniatures producing company in the world again. But for a while there, the old Malifaux guys, they were doing a good job. So yeah, that was that. What's another one? Biggest fantasy inspirations. Star Wars. Sorry, I'm a Star Trek fan, so I don't like Star Wars that much, and I consider it to be a bit too fantastical for my science fiction tastes. But that probably was incomprehensible. I was listening back to some things, and when I'm mumbling and thinking I'm being coherent, I'm actually not even audible at all. So whatever. It doesn't matter. But yeah, fantasy influences. So yeah, as I mentioned, um, the little fists here of indignation. The Terry Brooks, Sword of Shannara series were like, especially in my like formative years, my early days. A lot of my writing, especially, was sort of based on like the way Terry Brooks would write, kind of, sort of a little bit flowery, fairly descriptive, all that sort of stuff. I was saying in a previous video how I didn't like how he was like a bit too descriptive a lot of the time, and so I've sort of worked like when you're in high school though, it's like, oh, got to spend like 3 paragraphs describing this sunset. It's like, no, you don't really. That's just bogging stuff down. So historically, that was like one of my big influences. Not so much kind of art wise, but certainly kind of writing wise, story wise. And that very first kind of not anthro, but sort of I guess quad sort of sci-fi story that had like the dogs and birds and humans and the first sort of mechs and things. That was very much based on like the writing style of Terry Brooks, because that was like a novel I was writing. It wasn't a comic at the start, at least. So yeah, Terry Brooks novels again. I guess the Dragon Riders of Pern is more of a sci-fi, kind of dressed up like a fantasy. Well, much like the Shannara books, it's like a post-apocalypse story where people have come. It was high tech at one point, then it became low tech, and now it's kind of sort of struggling back to being something civilization wise. But those were all good. I like those. Yeah, I feel like a lot of my kind of fantasy influences are more novels rather than stuff. Again, back in my high school days, I'd read some David Gemmell books, like Legend and Drust the something something, kind of like, speaking of Dragon Force, basically just like Dragon Force in novel form. So those were good, again influencing my writing a little bit. What else? Fantasy. I'm sure there's something like glaringly obvious that I'm like, oh, obviously, might come back to it. Oh, Escaflowne, the anime about kind of, I guess it was one of the early isekai types where you've got, a girl going into this different world, and then it's sort of medieval, but they've got mechs that are powered by crystals and stuff. And yeah, I thought that was really cool. I really like that. I really like the designs, and yeah, the music's rad. And yeah, I don't know how much it influenced me. Perhaps like subconsciously in terms of like the dragon mech, I guess, because Escaflowne has got a dragon mech in there, transforming one no less. But yeah, that was pretty good. If that it was an influence, it was like a subconscious one. Would you call Secret of Nim a fantasy? Probably not. But that's a big one, as I was talking about last time. Yeah, no, time before that. And yeah, Dark Crystal. I sort of watched as a kid, and sort of that super freaked me out. And I don't know if that really influenced too much. I guess mainly like the kind of the darker stuff I like to do, and that sort of thing. But yeah, I guess like most of my stuff is fairly sci-fi, and even the stuff that like is fantasy on the surface, it's still kind of based in like science and not so much magic. I sort of think of kind of traditional fantasy where there's magic and stuff like that. Um, I don't really do that. Like I don't really have magic. I think of it in similar terms to time travel. But like I do have the crossover series where time travel is a big part of it, but that's kind of just like as a joke. It's like it's just it's there because time travel is stupid and ridiculous and makes no sense and all that kind of stuff. So I like doing it as like a comedy kind of thing. But yeah, magic as well. It's like I don't know. I like to have reasons for why things are happening, and not just because magic did it or because the prophecy did it or whatever. So yeah, I guess there aren't that many fantasy influences. There's certainly a lot more sci-fi ones, and yeah, I guess growing up with Transformers and Voltron and Macross and Star Blazers and all that kind of stuff, I was definitely more into the fantasy. I do like a lot of sorry into the sci-fi. I do like a lot of fantasy stuff, but yeah, they don't really influence my particular like way of doing stuff. So yeah. Oh yeah, I guess we'll get his actual clothes in here. That sort of squirrel kind of religiously inspired stuff. Yeah, the squirrels basically wearing their motocross or BMX bandit outfits most of the time. The idea being, I think I might have mentioned this before, is that they go through the trees a lot and they're like very sort of all terrain. So they want to have like protection, like knee pads, elbow pads, shoulder pads to kind of protect them when they're going around, at high speeds through fairly dangerous areas because they still sort of do that. It hasn't really shown them do that much. But all their machines have kind of got tons of handholds for like winching them up around like dangerous places, and getting hooks into things and moving stuff around. So yeah, they have a lot of that. They have a lot of pouches. They have a lot of doodads on their belts and things because they're very sort of all terrain, very out in the wilderness doing stuff all the time. Uh, yeah, so they would be about the same height as each other. Tomlin. Oh, by the way, Arthur. Yeah, I guess a character from a fan story of In Our Shadow, who sort of got involved with a single squirrel parent and her two kids, who's like a junker, and he is a human who was, I think, hooked up to sort of the human internet, kind of got stuck there, like disconnected from it at some point, and was stuck in there for millennia while the Earth changed, and eventually got out of that to be kind of put into a sort of a rat body. So he is a neural flare human. So he's got all that sort of neural flare knowledge, and he does have typically the red lab rat eyes that can turn them into the neural flare blue eyes, kind of whenever I want. Gee, oh wait, tail. I did notice annoyingly that I forgot to put the tail on the mech in the most recent page that I'm doing. But yeah, that'll come up soon. I just have been like crazy busy, but now that I've got the big commission out of the way, the big Daughters of Cain one, I should be able to get some more pages cranked out. Okay, what was the next bit? Well, after talking about my handwriting, I can't actually read what I've written here. I'll just go back into chat, but I think this is pretty much done. Yeah, I think she looks pretty disdainful. I think she would not stand for this. Definitely kind of making a mental note to kind of, get this sorted out at some point. Perhaps not right now, but she's pretty patient. Yeah. All right. Let's go. Oh, here we go. All right, let's head from where I finished off. Let's come back. Oh yeah, that's right, Johan in oh no, it jumped down to the bottom again. Oh yeah, the Google Doc Encyclopedia. Yeah, probably should. If again, like if I had time, I would. Sobek's Psylocke? Ooh, okay. It doesn't leave much of the imagination. But yeah, I'll do that. I'll do the Johan in the 2103 stuff first, and then I'll do that one for sure. Another silly headcanon for in our shadow I've thought of, since there's only so much an animal can learn in their lifetime. Certain things or animals are thought of to be myth, like foxes or yeah, that's a good question. I'll write it down legibly this time. For squirrels, I think dogs are just monsters under the bed their parents makes up. I think that's, yeah, let's make that canon. That sounds good. We've already seen that with the short memories comments. Yes, indeed. Final Fantasy 14 suddenly pulls it off. Oh, the interchangeability of sci-fi and fantasy. Yeah, I guess at some point, like, I think at some point it's either one or the other. Like, either you can explain. Well, maybe not. Never mind. I'll take that back. 2 ideas for sketches. Ooh, what I might certainly want to ignore. God Emperor Shawl. Okay, but what is it? I mean, no one really knows what the Emperor even looks like. He's always projecting some image of himself into people's minds. So, I was talking to my friends. We've been playing Necromunda lately, and it's like, I bet he's just like, yeah, this whole time he's been this like little tiny dude, just projecting himself like as this massive guy. He's just this little Danny DeVito looking guy. No, for selling gift grenades at a con. Oh god, that's the most embarrassing thing I've ever. Those grenades, the embarrassingest thing I've ever done. Malifaux is like Tim Burton the game. Yeah, it is, 100%. Um. NMM is beautiful but hard. Not sure what that is. I think I do. I think the acronym's familiar, but oh my god, this microphone, is it? Oh, sorry. It fixed itself. Okay. Still mad you missed the giant lore dump stream. Yeah, there'll be more of them. Make sure you enjoyed Zoids. Yeah, me too. Actually watched a compilation recently of a bunch of Zoids, like kind of not stop motion, but like really like highly produced kind of 1980s Japanese Zoids ads that have all the like the Zoids in there with like sort of Power Rangery effects over it. Looks pretty great. Secret of Nim has a magic stone in it. Close enough, yeah. Yeah, that was weird. That wasn't in the book, the magic stone. They just put that in there because Don Bluth wanted it to be more magical. The book is mainly just pure science. Oh wait, it says it right here. Only in the cartoon movie. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Exactly. Um, what about Western comics like Marvel and DC? Do you like stuff like that? Okay, that's cool. Okay, I've got two little questions to answer. So, DC, Marvel comics, do like? Okay, should be able to remember. Okay, so I'll do the Johan in stuff, then I'll do the Psylocke one. So let's get a new frame, a new picture in here. Layer, that's what they're called. Layer. So yeah, are animals myths in our shadow? Yeah, yes. So probably pretty clear from like just the way. I mean, it didn't happen very many times, but the way animals sort of react to, or the way that sentient animals react to like other animals, even like really smart, fairly learned ones like Amethyst. Although because rats only live for like 9 years, even though she was like a genius, even though I hate really heavy genius characters, even though I have about 12 of them, they have a limit to kind of how much stuff they can know about. So when she sort of, even though she like pretty knowledgeable about a lot of stuff and like relatively fairly intelligent, she did not know what an emu was, or what it could do. And yeah, it was sort of treated it as if it was a monster. So yeah, most animals would be sort of myths, and or if not myths, then like sort of status symbols that are like incredibly rare. Would you have a mullet? Probably. Incredibly rare to kind of see around the place. Just because, and this was in the hard copy book. I guess speaking of like a Google Doc with sort of lore stuff, in the hard copies of the book, there's like a little like timeline description of from present day up until 50,000 years in the future and how things kind of panned out, and that sort of explains a lot of like the gaps of the lore and things like that. And one of the things it says in there is that, of course, the rats were sort of the first ones to kind of evolve and get strong. Kind of the first thing they did was much like humans did when they evolved, is they just like obliterated all the predators. So kind of the same thing happened as what happens when humans evolved. So they destroyed the mammoths, they destroyed the saber-toothed tigers, any kind of thing that would be either a threat or kind of an easy food source that they can just like hunt to extinction. They kind of decimated. So a lot of the predators that would traditionally prey on rats, it's like cats and weasels. Well, they're still around, but things like that. I guess dogs to some extent, foxes. They mostly got eventually wiped out by the rats, and well, the rats very quickly sort of enslaved and increased the development of the other races as well. So they all sort of, once the rats evolved, the other ones were pretty quick to follow, and they sort of evolved along the same lines as the rats did. So yeah, so they would have wiped out a lot of those animals, or if not wiped them out, then they would only exist in areas that rats would not be going to. And since the Twilight Shroud was sort of always there through the development of the rats, the yeah, there weren't very many places that the rats didn't like colonize. Yeah, it said in the comic they had like 84 billion citizens, and most of them were rats. So most of the northern continent land masses were covered, and in all of those places, other animals would long since have been wiped out, unless there was some reason to keep them. But something that is pretty easy to sort of forget or gloss over is that Shaw actually had two like wolves as pets, like in the early pages of the comic, like before he decided to shoot the moon, and then Bray kind of caused the feedback loop, much like the microphone that I'm using, to destroy his like ship, and he only survived, and Clover survived because she could have hitched a ride in his energy shield. Which, by the way, in like recent pages of the comic, I haven't really explained why like Yash can't be hit by bullets and things like that. But hopefully, it's like it's obvious enough that it's because he has an energy shield around him. But yeah, what was I saying? Oh yes, he had two wolves, but they were killed in the big explosion. And yeah, so those wolves probably would be like a status symbol and like an intimidation thing. it'd kind of be like the equivalent of like, someone coming along with a saber-toothed tiger as a pet. And yeah, so it's something that people would only kind of know about from sort of distant memories and yeah, folklore and ancient, passed down. These things would have been, wiped out most animals long before the civilization got going properly. Yeah, he's got some big raver pants, I would think. Oh, let's do those like belt things that kind of. Oh yeah, kind of like what the lemurs have. But yeah, and yeah, sorry, I keep getting distracted from my train of thought. But yeah, so most of the, like, I guess the northern hemisphere animals, like, they probably were. There are probably not many of them around. They probably were completely hunted to extinction. But there certainly would be a lot more, and you do see this in the comic pages when it goes outside the cities. There's a lot more just normal animals roaming around in Australia and not probably in Madagascar as well. But yeah, certainly in Australia you see emus. There's the one that Amethyst sees, and when it kind of pans out in Rampart City, there's emus being used as sort of beasts of burden, kind of going around. And let's see, we have like matrix glasses. I don't know how that hair's doing, but that's fine. Oh no, metric classes don't have those. Yeah, but and certainly like I guess knowledge of these kind of southern hemisphere animals would eventually get to up to the northern hemisphere. So yeah, previously things that would be just like folklore, boogeyman tales, suddenly it would be like these monstrous things like out of nightmares. Yeah, I guess things like horses and cows and stuff like that and sheep that could survive on their own but aren't particularly a threat to rats. Although I think probably when the rats sort of expanded and before Shawl came along with the knowledge of how to sort of use the power of the Twilight Shroud to, create, 3D printed food farms and things, the rats would have just like grown as a species at such an exponential rate. They probably would have, once they killed the predators, just killed everything and eaten it. So yeah, there's not very many like normal animals around, so they'd be all like folklore. Things like dogs, yeah, they probably would have eaten all those as well. So yeah, I'm sure squirrels especially, yeah, as I said, we'll make that definitely canon that dogs are like ancient sort of boogeymen monsters from the distant past that they'll tell children about. This looks pretty 2001, right? I think I was wearing stuff like this around about that time. Oh, let's get some cargo pockets on here. Sorry, 2003. It's all the same thing. Got some Matchbox 20 playing on his Discman, which he has in the year 2103. Yeah. Because he gave up a lot of his powers, so he may not be able to make kind of anti-gravity stuff anymore. Yeah, that's I'll get some cargo pockets up here. Keep his batteries in. I think I did that little skit to death a million times in the Nuzlocke. All right, there we are. Cool. All right, next, power through these. Psylocke. Now I'm going to need a reference. All I know really about Psylocke is like incredibly skimpy leotard and energy blades. Well, that also brings me nicely to the DC Marvel thing. Psylocke. Actually, I did one of my commissions recently-ish, was to, well, one of the references to combine into something was using a little bit of Psylocke stuff. Okay, I think I better go just traditional Psylocke outfit, he says, noticing that there's about 10 of those. Yeah. Let's see, which one? Goodness. Which one? We'll go with this one. All right. So, Sobek as this. Could probably do that. Yeah, I've drawn Sobek a bunch of times. See if I can remember how to draw it this time. I don't think I particularly did it very well last time, but we'll see. I'm glad I'm sticking with these sort of like sort of vertical comic pages. Oh no, she's kind of got like a no. Hmm. Mm. Okay. Oh yeah, yeah. All right. I remember now. Kind of goes like this. Yeah, that looks about right. Sorry, shuffling around. I just got my papers. Oh yeah, do I like DC and Marvel comic stuff? Yeah, yeah, I do. When I was kind of in high school, I would read a whole bunch of Spider-Man comics, being that that is the optimum time in which to read those. I feel like. So yeah, like I guess because I didn't have like a huge amount of money to spend on stuff, I would get these the what was it called? The Untold Tales of Spider-Man. This was like 1996 or something like that. And yeah, they were like 99-cent comics. They were pretty good. They were like that typical kind of mid 90s sort of coloring style, which was very kind of gradients. Everything was gradients all the time. Kind of when sort of digital coloring was still relatively new, I guess, and people hadn't really like people were still kind of wowed by it. It's like, look how smooth this is, without really being like, maybe we should use this for good. This power that we've created for ourselves. But yeah, so I read Untold Tales of Spider-Man. I think there was like Peter Parker Spider-Man, early stuff, which was kind of like when I started, with when the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans came out, and later on the Spectacular Spider-Man, the Andrew Garfield ones. I was People were like, oh, they've got to get Spider-Man past being in high school. He was only in high school for a little bit, and why don't they just have adult Spider-Man? I'm like, well, everything that I've read of Spider-Man, he was in high school because it was these like early days, the Untold Tales of Peter Parker when he was like just a kid still. So I'm like, fine by me. That's the only Spider-Man I know. But yeah, no, I really liked reading the those Marvel Spider-Man comics, and like I'd go and get a lot of comics a lot of the time. Like at sort of so I sort of had a phase when I was in high school of just getting sort of old sort of vintage stuff. So I'd go to markets, I guess we call it a flea market, like garage sale type things, and try to find these old collections of comics and get those. So yeah, just like random issues of stuff, like mainly Spider-Man, but just a lot of X-Men stuff. I think back then I was still kind of more Marvel-y than DC, I would say. Like I wasn't really that sort of into the main three, I guess, DC properties or any of the other stuff. But yeah, so mainly Marvel, and I got pretty big into it. One of my friends in high school was like hugely into it. He'd get all like the Wizard magazines and all that sort of stuff, and we'd be like looking at like how much comics were worth and like all this sort of thing. But yeah, so I guess in the early days, my Marvel kind of and DC stuff, yeah, I liked them. This was sort of before any sort of movies came out, and then of course, yeah, when all the movies kicked off with Iron Man, I was like, what is this? This is incredible. So yeah, I read a fair bit of comics, but mainly the comics I would be reading back in the day, and even sort of before that, was Transformers comics, like the Marvel. Oh, there we go. It was Marvel. Yeah, so that's fine. The Marvel run of Transformers comics, and I don't know whether it was because of this that I sort of got into them. Probably not, but like it was a happy coincidence that Spider-Man just happened to be in the Transformers comics as well. I think it was in the era where if they weren't sure whether a a comic was going to do well, they would just chuck Spider-Man in it, and that seemed to work for the most part. Spider-Man or Wolverine, one of them, and yeah, so Spider-Man was in there. He was the black suit Spider-Man, and he sort of teamed up with Gears, like a fairly. Although the comics sort of came out before the cartoon did, so I guess they didn't know who was going to end up being a main character. But Gears was like this little, like surly, angry little guy, little short man syndrome Autobot who, yeah, he's like nobody. He just turns into nothing. No one cares about him. No one remembers him. But he was like the main character, and he teamed up with Spider-Man in the Transformers comics. So yeah, I read a lot of the Marvel Transformers comics, although they were a little before my time. So I didn't really get them as they were coming out. It was at these sort of garage sales that I was mentioning earlier that I would sort of pick these things up. They kind of came out, 84 to 90. I got some of the later ones when they were sort of kind of coming up to their conclusion. But yeah, most of them I got sort of after the fact, and they were really cool. I was like, they were sort of fairly inconsistent and kind of like weirdly drawn a lot of the time. But these are comic artists who are used to drawing, human physiques at their peak performance in spandex, and suddenly they had to draw a guy that turns into a telegraph pole or whatever, and they're like, oh no, I guess we have to completely relearn how to do this. I always thought it was funny when they would like just give the Transformers like incredibly human features and like muscles and like faces that are all like spitting little spittle because especially in the early 90s where everything was getting like really extreme. Yeah, the Transformers would just have like drool everywhere and like all their cuts would be like leaking all these fluids. I'm like, my God, this is not the Transformers that I really remember. But yeah, the art was a little funny, but the stories were really good and they were usually very brutal. Kind of much like the Transformers the movie, where they've got to cycle through the toy line, so they've got to kill the old one off. They did that in the comic like every issue. They would be like just killing people left, right, and center. They'd sometimes bring him back because it's comics, and that would happen quite a lot. I think Megatron died like 3 times, and in between him coming back for the upteenth time, like Ratbat was the leader, and Starscream was the leader, and Soundwave was the leader, and Shockwave was famously the leader for a while. And yeah, no, they were really cool. I really liked those Transformers comics, and yeah, like they kind of ended like not when I was in primary school, like grade 2 or 3. I was getting those ones in the early 90s, and they kind of ended around about then, and they ended like really. I thought they ended really bleakly because they had like the second last issue of the sort of the American run, and like it ended so crazy. Like every Autobot was dead except for one. Most of the Decepticons were dead except for a few headmasters. Apparently, the next issue that wrapped everything up kind of was like was much lighter in tone and like a nicer ending. But I sort of left it off at an incredibly dismal point. And as far as I knew, it just ended incredibly depressingly. And after that, I sort of got some G.I. Joe comics, which are also Marvel at the time. Of course, they became Dreamwave and then IDW after that. But yeah, at the time, there was like, the Generation 2 Transformers, they would have their crossover with G.I. Joe. And so I sort of moved on to that, like, a year or two later. And those were fun. Pretty cool, like bringing in the new Megatron, and there's sort of an arc with in GI Joe, Dr. Biggles Jones making Megatron a new body to make him into G2 Megatron, and that was pretty good. Yeah, I liked all that stuff. But yeah, in general, I do like comics a lot. But same thing with everything these days. I just like haven't got time to read comics that much. At least for the audio books, I can kind of listen to an audio book while I'm drawing or painting or something. But comics, not so much. And yeah, no, but I do like Marvel. I haven't really read a lot of DC stuff. The only thing recently, I think it was DC that I read. Yeah, traditionally in like my formative growing up years, I would not have read any DC comics at all. But I did recently read the Batman crossover with Ninja Turtles comic, mainly because somebody sent them to me in the mail. I had a really awesome friend, Jazz Fox, on Deviantart, who I was doing a little comic with them, but I was doing it sort of way too slowly. But they would sort of, I think, get all the comics, especially the IDW Transformers comics, and once they got so they get the single issues, and then once they got the trades, they would sort of send me the single issues in the mail. So that was how I got most of my stuff. And yeah, recently, and by recently I mean like from 2012 to like 2018, I read tons of Transformers comics, the IDW ones, and they're incredible. Like the Andrew Wildman, like Lost Light run, like all that kind of stuff. The Nick Roche Lost Down to the Wreckers, like incredible stories, just fantastic art. by yeah, and even Simon Furman, kind of one of the veterans of Transformers writing in there. Bob Budiansky just doing stuff, but yeah, like super good. So comic wise, not Marvel or DC, but yeah, definitely read a lot of those. Pretty good stuff. Oh, we've got some of those blue bands over here as well. Oof, got 10 minutes. Yeah, so sorry about not getting to everyone's questions and everyone's art this time, but yeah, I do have to go and meet with Mother Dearest at the coffee shop soon, and so I'm going to have to take my leave a little early. And but next time after that should be good. So yeah, I think that's a Psylocke. Oh wait, hold on. No. That's a Psylocke. Gotta get rid of this. Oh, and there's a belt with a little tiny X on there. Oh, speaking of miniatures games that I like the miniatures of, I might have mentioned this, but I have been playing Marvel Crisis Protocol, which is really good. They've got a lot of really good sort of just every Marvel character. They've got like hundreds of, not every Marvel character, but they're getting there. They've got hundreds of them at the moment, and they've done really great miniatures for them. It's a really fun, like simple-ish sort of tabletop game. Yeah, I've been painting a lot of those up. And Psylocke very recently got released for that game, so I'm sure I'll be painting a Psylocke miniature at some point. I think that's probably that. All right, let's head back into the chat. Where's that mouse? Here it is. Okay, let's go back. It's only going to take me 10 minutes just to scroll back through the comments. Hey. Um, love the commission, by the way. Oh, glad you liked it. Millennia of no stimulation makes the simple thing exciting to him. Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Oh, yeah, you were saying about like this is Arthur, this sense of smell and everything. SC Pilot, love all the Kitfox comics. Thank you. Seeing this sketch gave me an idea for another sketch. Muscle builder Buff Shawl giving a good flex. Oh, that's right. Emperor of Mankind Shawl was the other one. Buff Shawl giving a good flex. Oh my lord. Yeah, well, like traditionally, like jokingly, I'll draw people with like gigantic muscles, so it'd be fun to do that again. What's going to be canon? Oh, the fact that some animals have like worked their way into the myths, specifically that dogs are like kind of a boogeyman for squirrels. Good to know. I missed that since I barely remember the book, reading it so young. On the subject of Nim, what did you think of the other sequels to the first books? I haven't read them. I am a terrible poser. Or seen them. The only sequels Nim related is Timmy's Big Adventure. I refuse to even know what it's really called, but garbage, as I've at length expressed my distaste for. Um, are those hardcopy books still available? Yeah, just on Lulu. In fact, I think G mentioned that. In error, Kid Fox Boy, that reminded me of the question I was going to ask and keep forgetting. Shaw had his own pet dogs early on. Were they pets for a status of some kind? Oh yeah, that's easy to answer. Yes, they were just a status thing. He's found him somewhere, some Arctic wilderness or something like that. I guess that could, like, if I do like a Shawl standalone, like later on, that'll probably be part of it. Beat me to it. Search for my cleaver, yep. So if you rewrote stolen or restored, what will be different? Oh yes. Getting heavy reminders of your silver Nuzlocke from this sketch? Yes, absolutely. Oh, that's the cargo pants and stuff, by the way. Yeah, that was set in the year 2000, so very much similar. Not sure if my question got answered. Which one was that? Solak and Sobek have similar builds? They do. It disappeared around... Yeah, Sobek is untraditionally curvaceous, I guess. My characters tend not to be. I disappeared around Wolves Shawl had. Oh yeah, I can't remember. My train of thought has been all over the place today, so I've lost track of what was happening in that conversation. Oh, he mentioned that a lot of animals. Oh yes. I was curious if the hard copies of iOS were still available. Oh yeah, they're there. I redid them. They're a little smaller than the previous versions, but they're up there on Lily. Do you need refs for Psylocke? I found one. The Transformers animated show is good. You mean like Transformers animated or the original animated show? Either way, they're both good in their own ways. Kitfox just doesn't like Bayformers. Yes, I do not. Bumblebee was okay. Okay, she's cute. This is a fun idea. Speaking of Marvel Transformers, go read the excellent Regeneration 1. Yeah, I've got it. I have read it. It is quite good. Which picks up after the series. Yeah, Simon Furman, I think, wrote that. The series ended at 80, ignoring Generation 2, and gave it a rather satisfying ending. Yeah, it was pretty good. Awesome sketches. When's the next stream? I'll go for like 2 weeks from now, and we'll see how that goes. Animals with Pets always kind of makes me laugh. Yeah, the old Mickey Pluto thing, right since the start of animation. Has that been something? Um, God, my memory's messed up today. Oh yeah, I'll do Buff Shaw. But gee, could you give me a dragon-related thing that I'll be terrible at doing just to finish us up? But yeah, I'll quickly say again what I was going to change with the new version of SG and RG. So, Buff Shaw. Yeah, so in short, Stolen Generation is I do like it. Like the basic story, I think is fine. It's just incredibly um, embarrassing. I just there's just like so many things in it that like I would not do again now. Just like yeah, things like the Yif grenade and just like all this gratuitous like I don't know like nudity and just weird characters saying weird stuff and just water. Sorry, I had to take some of the valuable remaining seconds to drink, otherwise I would turn into a husk, a piece of parchment. But yeah, just a lot of characters in Stolen Generation were just like either based on sort of like friends I had at the time who had like weird sort of quirky, 20 like early 20s, early 2000s like lingo and all that sort of stuff, and it just doesn't hold up. So, oh my god, okay, he's all for a big mouth, but like, but yeah, I would definitely tone down a lot of the like the weird, quirky early 2000s lingo. Probably a lot of the cringy stuff, and probably more, and definitely more importantly, the more kind of yeah problematic stuff that's based on sort of real life events. Because a lot of SG was yeah just based on kind of actual history, at least up until like sort of all the mechs and stuff came into it. And that's really I don't really have any right to do that. I did this in a different time where like my mind was in a different place. I was like a stupid idiot kid, and the world was different then. Things have gotten a lot more, a lot better for people that aren't just a straight white dude. So I felt really bad about the way I sort of appropriated some of the ideas or some of the things that certain groups have been going through. So I would change the slant and have it very more broadly, I guess, sort of allegorical, not like specifically this is about the stolen generation, and this is about the white kind of invasion of Australia and what happened specifically to the Tasmanian Aboriginal people, and like projecting my sort of sensibilities onto how that might plan out if suddenly crazy technology was discovered. But yeah, so I would make it a bit more kind of yeah, and I with at the risk of like losing a bit of like the bite to it, I guess, or like the specific kind of trying to make a statement. I think I would have to change a fair bit of that. I don't think I'd feel comfortable doing that these days. But yeah, so I changed that, and probably more aesthetically, I would change the design of a lot of stuff, cause the technology that's supposed to be like unfathomably more advanced than anything else kind of didn't look that dissimilar from the sort of thing that everyone just had. So like a lot of the like the mechs that the sort of marsupials will have will be a lot more, and I did talk about this in another stream, a lot more kind of energy based and sort of much more like highly advanced to kind of show that they are like leagues beyond anything that like anyone else has seen, which is why six random 20-somethings can, orchestrate this war that sort of takes over the world. But yeah, so that would be the main thing, kind of toning down the cringe, toning down the problematic sort of references to real life people and events, and just making the technology look cooler. And I mean, it's kind of I don't know if this is a oxymoron or whatever, but or a catch-22, but I want to make the mech sort of reference more kind of traditional, kind of Aboriginal sort of art style, where a lot of its energy and then a lot of the internals that you can see through the energy are made of that sort of the dot painting and the line drawing and the sort of almost anatomical kind of drawing they have. It's all sort of flat and stylized. So yeah, I probably change it to look a lot more like that rather than just like any other robot that I've ever drawn. I guess he would still have the bottom part of his armor here. It's just his lab coat that's kind of like lifted up and blowing in the breeze. Yeah, still got his little stuff here. Yeah. Huge, huge, huge. Let's see. Kangaroo dragons, very awesome. Oh wait, I think I've missed a lot. Oh, a kangaroo dragon. Oh yes, okay, cool. Fully support the suggestion. Okay, cool. I can give you some help if you want. Right. Youth is always full of cringe, indeed it is. Unfortunately, I've captured all my cringe in comic format. Another one bites the dust. I was so proud of that fight sequence too. Another one bites the dust. Oh my god. I'm a lifelong furry. Same. I forgot how to cringe a long time ago. Well, yeah, that's my secret. Always cringe. I admire you like cringe. As you get older, you realize that George Orwell was right when he said every generation imagines itself to be more intelligent than the one that was before it and wiser than the one that comes after. Yeah, absolutely. Being a teacher, I'm well aware of this. Had it from every side. I kind of hope you change the whole mind control part of the story a little bit. Um, which part of which story? Hmm. Maybe Barrett would be the ruler of the world at the beginning of the story. No, that's not really her style. And the marsupials. Oh, okay. I've only got a couple of minutes. I'm over time already, but that's okay. And the marsupials are taking down a evil empire. Yep. Loving the sketch. I feel like this could have been the final boss at the end of part. Well, he basically kind of was that. He emerges from the rubble. Like stunning our heroes who had thought him defeated. Yeah, like Shredder, like putting his hand up through the rubble at the end of Ninja Turtles. Yeah, alternate ending. That'll be in the director's cut. Okay, a kangaroo dragon, you say. All right, let's see how quickly I can bust this out. And because I'm on a time limit, if it's bad, sorry, when it's bad, it'll be because of that. Now, how much dragon and how much kangaroo? Let's see. I think it needs to be probably like, I mean, a kangaroo is basically a dragon already, but I feel like it would have probably a fairly like solid jawline. And teeth? To teeth or not to teeth? Kangaroos don't really do teeth. I'll have like some just teeth at the front. Yeah, that feels like a compromise. Now, I guess the body shape will be sort of kangarooula. I've reached a terrible problem. Okay, let me just fix this up. So, 4,000. Oh, you idiot. You fool. Change the height. There's no time, man. No time for this foolishness. Images. Canvas size. 4,000. And I would like it to be there, please. That's better. And I better put this on this layer. Okay. Great. Okay, you wanted a worm dragon, right? So let's get rid of... Okay, I'll get rid of that later. No time. So let's go... Oopsies, that's not the right tool. Oops, it's not the right tool even. Okay, let's get a basic kind of sketch of what a kangaroo is. Kangaroo is always a very difficult thing to do in in media when they're supposed to be anthro, because they've got these weird legs that just go right up and right down. Luckily, because they sort of evolved a bit later on, they haven't sort of gone down the human body type route quite as much, so they can sort of get away with them being a little more like their animal counterpart, because at some point they're going to have to make a decision. Keep hopping or start walking, and luckily that hasn't happened just yet. So, the dragon now. Get some wings in here, some arms in here. Get some claws. I hope this is what you had in mind. Oh, gee, but we'll see. Okay. Claws. Claw stuff. Little wrinkles. Some scales up here. Yeah, I'm definitely from the kind of reluctant dragon, Sleeping Beauty, Maleficent school of dragons, where scales are weird and just in places to imply that they're everywhere, sort of, but they're sort of weird little round, sort of Mad Madam Mim dragon style from Sword in the Stone. Yeah, it's fine. Scales are a state of mind. You just, Alright, I think we're getting somewhere with the body shape. Now let's see about the rest. Okay. Bring those arms up a little bit. It's a little bit low. That's a little bit high, whatever, I guess. Yeah, we'll go like this. And get some scales on here. I think this thing isn't very happy about where evolution has taken it. Get some knee scales. And this. I should have been answering a question this whole time. I think that's a dragon. A kangaroo dragon. Obviously. There was a question back here. Can't think of it at the moment. Oh, it doesn't matter. I'll just bust this out. And we'll see. Okay, so yeah, dragon. It's got to have the kangaroo ears, though. Maybe a little smaller than I normally do them. How did this pen get so big all of a sudden? It's been like that for like half the picture, but whatever. And then I guess we'll have some horns coming from the sort of eyebrow ridges, doing this. That looks completely normal, that's fine. Nah, no lines. And then back here. Oh, sorry. And then get rid of this. Sorry if my sound is going in and out, so I'm leaning back and forward trying to do this as quick as possible. Yeah, let's get rid of this stuff. I probably don't need to erase these lines. And then I do like the little cheek ones. And I think we're getting there. I think it doesn't need wings, it hops around. Oh yeah, the feet. Or if anyone's watched any of the, what's his name? Bobby Skullface, Transformers Reviews, The Beat. Okay, there we go. Little bits and pieces here. And that is a dragon, everybody. That's what the people have come to see. Okay, so I'll zoom out a little bit to get its full majesty. Good. All right, well, we'll leave it there. 20 minutes to get to my mum's meeting up place. So yeah, thanks so much everybody for being involved and talking in chat and giving me stuff to talk about and giving me stuff to draw. Again, apologies for the sound problems. If I say we'll probably have it fixed by next time, we definitely won't, so I won't say anything. And yeah, it's always great. Love doing these things. Love getting another bit of extra thing out there for you amazing patrons who allow me to do this stuff. And hopefully at some point allow me to make it most of the thing I do. But we'll see how it goes. No pressure, no anything. You know, it's a dream. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Doesn't matter. But anyway, yeah, thanks so much for being here. And I'll catch you next time.